Will capitalism destroy itself or simply become something else? The relevance of Marxism today. Welcome to the Politica UK Infopod. There is a familiar reflex in periods of uncertainty to return to those thinkers who appeared to anticipate the fault lines long before they became visible. Among them, Karl Marx remains one of the most frequently revived, his assertion that capitalism would ultimately collapse under the weight of its own contradictions, carrying a renewed resonance in the present moment. Karl Marx was strikingly accurate in predicting that capitalism would concentrate wealth and produce recurring instability, both of which remain defining features today. However, he was wrong to assume that the system would collapse or that society would polarize into two rigid classes. Instead of breaking down, capitalism has proven highly adaptable, reshaping itself through regulation, technology, and new economic forms. What endures from his thinking is not the inevitability of collapse, but the persistent tension within the system itself. It is tempting to dismiss the claim outright. Capitalism has not collapsed. It persists, adapts, expands, and, in many respects, continues to define the structure of global life. Yet dismissal feels premature, because while the system endures, the tensions Marx described are not only visible, they are increasingly difficult to ignore. Wealth has concentrated in ways that feel both unprecedented and strangely predictable. Vast accumulations of capital sit alongside a broader sense of economic pressure, where the distinction between security and precarity appears to hinge less on effort than on proximity to ownership. The architecture of advantage has become more rigid, even as the language surrounding opportunity remains fluid. At the same time, instability has settled into the rhythm of the system. Financial shocks, geopolitical strain, energy disruptions, and market volatility no longer register as anomalies, but as recurring features of the landscape. The system moves, often rapidly, in response to itself, adjusting not only to material conditions, but to expectation, perception, and narrative. It is not so much breaking as continually recalibrating under pressure. And yet, the decisive rupture Marx anticipated has not arrived. The reason lies in a quality he did not fully account for: capitalism's capacity for adaptation. It absorbs critique, modifies its mechanisms, and presents new forms in response to old problems. Where inequality sharpens, interventions emerge. Where markets falter, structures are reinforced. Where industries decline, others take their place, frequently more efficient, more abstracted, and less tethered to physical labor. What is unfolding now is less a collapse than a transformation that resists clear definition. The traditional relationship between labor and capital is no longer the sole axis of tension. It has expanded into something more diffuse, where the boundaries between human effort, technological process, and economic value are increasingly blurred. Work is reconfigured through platforms, mediated through algorithms, and in many cases displaced or reshaped by automation. Within this shifting terrain, individuals occupy an ambiguous position. No longer solely participants within a system, they also operate as self-contained economic units, producing, distributing, and monetizing their own output. The distinction between worker and owner becomes less stable, even as the broader structures of power remain firmly in place. This fragmentation introduces a different kind of complexity, one that sits uneasily alongside the older models of class and production. Marx recognized that capitalism generated pressure from within, that its drive toward accumulation and expansion would create instability as a natural consequence of its own success. What he did not fully anticipate was the system's ability to metabolize that pressure, to convert crisis into transition, and to extend its own lifespan through continual reinvention. The present moment does not suggest an imminent end. It suggests something quieter and, in many ways, more difficult to grasp. a system that persists by changing its shape, absorbing disruption, and redistributing its tensions across new forms. The question is no longer one of sudden collapse, but of gradual mutation, of how far a structure can evolve before it ceases to resemble its original form. Marx may not have predicted the future in the way it has unfolded, but he understood the strain embedded within the system. That strain has not resolved itself. It has simply become part of the atmosphere. This infopod was brought to you by Politica UK. Copyright 2026, Sarnia de la Maré, FRSA.